Welcome back to Let's Talk About It, where faith meets real and honest conversations. I know, guys. I haven't shot a full episode in such a long time. I think the last episode I would have shot was in April, and I've had a break since then, but for good reasons. I have been working behind the scenes because TSR Media is not just a network where we just do any podcast. This is a movement where we want to uplift and we want to encourage every person that we come into contact with. So it was just a bit of a reset. And this is so awesome because my topic for this month is reset. So, our topic is resetting our minds and preparing ourselves for a new season. Teachers are going back to the classrooms in September, children are preparing to go back to school. So, it was fitting to have a theme called Resetting Our Minds. Now, what I want to ask you, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please hit that like button, the notification button, so that you can stay up to date when we post a new episode, and subscribe to our channel for exciting episodes and exciting podcasts. And I just want to keep you updated with so many things that's going to be happening. So let's get right into it. So I want to ask you guys a question. Have you ever prayed to God to open a new door, or you prayed for him to elevate your life, to bless your family, to take your purpose to another level, to give you something new? But somehow you find yourself thinking the same way you've always been thinking. You are praying for a new season, but still carrying the same old mindset. You're asking God for elevation, but your thoughts keep pulling you back to where you've been. And maybe the problem isn't God hasn't answered or opened the door for you. Maybe the question is, are you mentally prepared to walk through it? So let's get right into this. So let's talk about my reset. About 2 months ago, I decided to go on a spiritual led fast. And with that fast, not only did I fast from food, but I also took it a step further to fast from social media, mainly TikTok. Not so much YouTube and Facebook, because I do continuously post uplifting messages for anyone that wants to hear it. But I fasted from TikTok, and it started off as just 2 weeks. And after that fast was up, I realized that I continued not to indulge into social media, mainly TikTok. And one of the things that surprised me was how better that my mind could focus. My brain didn't seem foggy as it normally would seem. Um, I was intentional about everything that I did. I wasn't rushing to go to places. I had time to take my time, reset my mind, get ready. Because let's talk about it. Social media and technology, it's a good thing. I don't think it's bad, but it's the intention on how you use it. And with social media, we have been so intertwined with that fast paced life, everything fast, even down to the air fryer when you think about it. You put your food in the air fryer, you leave it, you set it, you come back, it's done. So everything in this world today is fast. And because it's fast, we don't have time to slow down and really reset our focus and our mind on things that that we need to achieve, that we want. Not even what we need to achieve, but we haven't focused our mind even to hear God, to hear what He's saying to us in this season. So I became more intentional. I could focus, like I said. I could sit down and I could actually read a book. It was so difficult for me to read a book. It was difficult. 5 minutes into the book, I would normally just be picking up my phone. And I know you've done it. I would normally be watching TV and typing and texting. But because I was intentional about resetting my mind on social media, I realized that I was able to read a book, understand it, interpret it, and not be distracted by the things of the world. And I'm so proud of myself. I read a 250-page book, believe it or not, in 1 week. Yay, happy for that. But it just tells you how much our minds are so intertwined into social media. and to technology. And the scripture says, do not be conformed to the things of the world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of the mind. And sometimes we think the renewing of the mind, and I don't doubt these things, like maybe go out and to exercise, maybe like come off of social media. These are things, but also transforming by renewing the mind. So every day you have to renew the mind daily on different things. You have to reset the mind. And one of the things that I encourage everyone to do is reset your mind when it comes to social media. So, what I learned in a fast paced world, we live in a world where everything is competing for our attention. Notification, videos, news, opinions, entertainment, messages, advertisement. I mean, even if you're watching YouTube 5 minutes into the show, an advertisement is going to come up. But there's a difference between using something intentionally and allowing something to use your attention. And I had to ask myself, what am I allowing into my mind every single day? And I want you to ask yourself that question. What are you allowing into your mind every single day? Because what you repeatedly consume eventually influences what you think about. And what you think about influences how you live. When you start to think and when you start to see things on social media, you tend to feel like you're forgetting things. Or even when it comes to perfumes, like there's was a perfume obsession with the Arabic perfumes, and every time I scrolled online, it would just tell me new releases, to the point where I got addicted. That I found myself spending tremendous amount of money on perfumes weekly. So what we put into our minds, into our eyes, what we let into our eye gate, to our ear gate, really influences us. That's why Philippians 4 and 8 tells us to think about things that are true, honorable, just, pure, holy, commendable, excellent, and worthy of praise. In other words, be intentional about what gets access to your mind. So, what are you feeding it? Here is something I want you to think about today. If you were to look at everything you've consumed over the last 7 days, what has your mind been eating? What have you been watching? What have you been listening to? What conversations have you been participating in? Are they conversations that are uplifting and encouraging, or they're ones of gossip? What accounts have you been following? That's a good one. What accounts have you been following on TikTok? Is there anything that can uplift you, that can encourage you, that can renew the mindset, break the habits? What have you been replaying in your mind? What have you been telling yourself? What voices have you allowed to become louder than God's voice? And in social media, when we just get so caught up in technology, what happens is when we even pray to God, we do a fast prayer. When we're silent and we're able to think and we cut out the noise, we're able to hear God more. We're able to see what He's doing in our lives. When it's just fast moving, we can't see. And then when we do fall, we're constantly asking where God is. It's not where God is, it's where He wants to meet you at. And are you listening to hear Him? So sometimes the reset is subtraction. One thing the fast taught me is sometimes a reset isn't about adding sometimes it's about removing something. Maybe you don't need another podcast, maybe you need silence. Maybe you don't need another opinion, maybe you need prayers. Maybe you don't need another motivational video, maybe you need to sit with God and ask, Lord, what are you trying to show me today? So I want you to do that. What is it that you need to subtract every day from your life that is not feeding positivity, that is not allowing you to see direction in your life? What is it that you need to remove in your life today? I just want you to think about it. We also look at Corinthians, 2 Corinthians 10 and 5. It says, we must take captivity of every thought to make it obedient to Christ. And that means we don't have to believe every thought that enters our mind. A thought can enter our mind without being given permission to build a house there. And that's powerful. because sometimes we treat every thought as true. Sometimes you hear the voices in your head and then you're like, that's the truth, but not necessarily is the truth. So just because you feel it doesn't mean that it's true. So as you reset your mind, your new season may require new thinking. Maybe you're entering a season where God is calling you to lead, but you're still thinking like you have to follow everybody. You still think that you need to follow every influencer online. You need to follow every celebrity, but maybe God might be calling you to step aside. Maybe he may be calling you not to follow but to lead. You don't have to become somebody else. You just need to become more aligned with who He is creating you to be. And you can only come aligned, or you can only become aligned with who He's creating you to be once you drown out all the noise, all of the distractions that has been distracting you from being able to step into that. So I want to share some practical steps with you. So I just wrote it down in my notes. We want to stick to our notes. So here is your challenge that I'm asking you today. For the next 7 days, I want you to intentionally reset your mind. Not necessarily a 7 day social media fast. Maybe yours is different from mine. Maybe it doesn't look like mine. But I want you to create a space. Wake up before you reach for your phone. Give God your first thought. Sometimes we give God our last thought. We wake up, we do everything else, and then we remember, oops, we have to pray. What about waking up intentionally and giving God your first thought? Spend time in scripture. Pick a scripture. Use AI to be intentional, not for things that are not feeding it positivity. There are a lot of scriptures that we can look up, even if we're not well versed in scriptures, we can look up scriptures. And so look up scriptures that pertains to the season that you're in and meditate on it. Spend time in that. Pray, journal, take a walk, read something that builds you. And that was so exciting that I was able to read a book and it truly was amazing. I was able to read it and understand it, not just read it, run through it fast, but understand it and see how I can apply it to my daily life. And pay attention to what you're allowing in your spirit. And every time a negative thought comes up, don't just accept it. Challenge it, replace it. Instead of I can't, say, God, will you give me the strength I need? Instead of I am behind. So in closing, as you prepare for a new season, I want you to ask yourself, what needs to change in my thinking before I can step into what I have been praying for? Not what does everyone else need to change. Sometimes we think everyone else needs to change, but sometimes it may be us that need to change. Or not why God hasn't changed my circumstances, but Lord, what are you trying to change in me? Because maybe the door is coming, maybe the opportunity is coming, maybe the elevation is coming, maybe the next chapter is coming, maybe it's right here. But God doesn't want you to just change your circumstances. He wants to transform you. And I realize that a lot of times when things happen for us or when God is moving us to a next season in our lives, He normally works from the inside out. And sometimes that pruning is really hard. I can tell you that from experience. It's hard. But in order for you to see the full manifestation of God, He has to prune you from the inside. He has to remove things, He has to remove branches that do not produce fruit in your life. So I want to leave this with you. Reset your mind, prepare your heart, because there is a new season ahead of you. And when God opens that door, I pray you just don't have faith to walk through it. I pray you have the renewed mind to recognize that you belong there. So until next time, let's talk about it with faith and real, honest conversation. If you like this video, hit the like button, the button, and stay up to date with our new episodes by hitting the notification bell button. I am so glad that I am back and I'm excited. I have so much new topics to talk about. We even have a new setup and a new background. We want to be comfortable. So thank you for joining me on this conversation.